Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Lovely to see you. Thanks for being here with us this evening. If you're joining us in person, we're so thrilled that you're here. And if you're joining us online, we are similarly thrilled to have you watching and worshiping along with us this evening. We'll begin this evening's service with very traditional words, Yai Lai Lai. I invite you to join me in singing. Yai Lai 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 Lai. Yai Lai 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 Lai. Yai Lai 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 Lai. Yai 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 la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Shabbat Shalom. You all should have received, if you're joining us in person, a blue prayer book on your way in. If you didn't receive one, just raise your hand really quickly, and our wonderful board representative, Lynn Greenbaum, will be happy to run one over to you. We'll begin our service this evening on page 2 of the blue prayer book. And on page 2, we will light our Shabbat candles and join in prayer together. Page 2, I invite you to join me in singing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik neh shel Shabbat. We'll turn to page 10 and offer each other words of welcome, words from Psalms. Hine matov umanaim, shevet achim gam yachad. How good and sweet it is for us all to be together. And hey, we know the tune already. We opened our service with it, with Yai Lai Lai. We'll now use these words of Hine matov. Hine matov umanaim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Further down on page 10, I think right below, I forgot to turn my page, but I think that's right where it is. Words of Shabbat Shalom, Ma yafeh hayom, how beautiful today is, this Sabbath of peace. We'll offer these words together. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. We'll turn in our prayer books to page 20. It is said that we are to be as happy at the arrival of Shabbat as we are at a wedding. And while we don't have any wedding festivities really to show you all this evening, I will say this is my absolute favorite time of year in our sanctuary, where the sun is setting just as we gather for Shabbat services, and those sunbeams pierce through the room, really beautify up this space so nicely. So while we don't have a lovely bride and groom walking down the aisle to join us this evening, we do have nature's beautiful light. As we turn to page 24, these celebratory words of Lecha Dodi will offer the refrain at the top of page 20, as well as verses 1, 2, and verse 9 on page 21. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela lecha Adoni likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Oy shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad hishmianu el ham yuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad Shem u'tiferet ven litchila lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה בראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עד ארץ בלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני ינסלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. All of that has been a warm-up as we move now to our call to worship and the beginning of the formal part of our prayer service. I'll ask that if you're joining us in person, you feel comfortable and able, that you rise. And as you do so, you can turn to page 28 for the words of the Baruch Hu. Praise God to whom praise is due. Praise God to whom praise is due, now and forever. Ya-la-lai, lai, lai, 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 ya-la-lai, lai, lai. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya-la-lai, lai, lai, 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 ya-la-lai, lai, lai. We'll turn right in our prayer books to page 34. Words proclaiming the oneness of Adonai, as well as declaring the oneness of our community, Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. You may be seated. And as you are seated, please turn to page 36 for the continuation of the words in Torah that follow Shema, words of Ve'ahavta, top of page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beineinecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Turning to page 39 in your prayer books. We'll read responsively at the top of the page, so you'll read the second paragraph. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together, and singing on page 40, our song of freedom, the words that we sang on the other side of the Red Sea, Micha Mocha. Yain lai 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 lai. Yain lai 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 lai. Yain lai 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 lai. Yain lai 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 lai. Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai. Micha Mocha nedar ba'kodesh. Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai. Micha Mocha nedar ba'kodesh. Turn to page 43. As we recite together the words of the lullaby of our people, asking that God spread over us a shelter of peace. Words of Hashkivenu. We'll use this creative English translation at the top of page 43. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Eloheinu leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. We arrive at the Amidah section of our service. If you'll join me in turning to page 46 and rising if you feel comfortable and able, we'll ask that God open our lips, that our mouths may declare God's praise. Please rise. Adonai, sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 48. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Koneh Ha'akol, V'Zocher Chazdei Avot v'Imachot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'Ezrat Sarah. Page 52. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Please be seated. We'll turn together to page 61 as we recite together in English our evening prayer for peace, reading these words together at the top of page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavarech et amo Yisrael, bashalom. Take a moment now for your own silent thoughts, meditations, prayers of your heart. When you're finished, you can turn the page and we'll join together in the words of Oseh Shalom on page 62. Oseh Shalom Mimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru. Amen. Oseh Shalom Romav, yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel Amen. La 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Oseh shalom miromav uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'yimeru Amen. Please turn in your prayer books to page 253. We turn now in our thoughts to anyone we know of in our lives that is in need of healing, of body, of mind, or of spirit. If you're joining us online on our stream, I'm going to invite you to leave any names of anyone you're thinking of in our chat so that we may embrace them as a community. For those of you joining us in person in our sanctuary, I'm going to look around the room, and as I do, and as our eyes meet or mine pass over you, please feel free to offer out loud any names that you are thinking of. In the middle of page 253, our prayer for healing, the words of Misha Berach. Misha Berach avoteinu mikor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach imotenu mikol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. So, on your way in this evening, one of you said one of the scariest things that you can say to anybody that works at a synagogue in the month of Elul. Are you ready for the high holidays? I am ready for the high holidays. I brought a story about it this evening. Thank goodness. I'd prepared myself. Many, many years ago, before there were any fire engines or fire brigades or electric fire alarms, and most houses were built of wood, a fire was a terrible thing. The entire town could go up in flames and smoke if one broke out. So when one did break out, everyone left his or her business or work and rushed to help put out the fire. There used to be a watchtower that was taller than the other buildings where a watchman kept look all of the time. And as soon as that person saw smoke or fire, they would sound an alarm. The townspeople would then form a human chain between the fire and the nearest well and pass on to each other pails of water, which would be used to help put out the fire. Once it happened that someone from a completely different village came to this town for the first time. He stopped at an inn on the outskirts of town and suddenly heard the sound of a bugle. He asked the innkeeper, "What does this sound mean?" "Whenever we have a fire," the innkeeper explained to this person, "we sound the bugle, and the fire is then quickly put out." "How wonderful," thought this person. "What a surprise and a sensation I will bring to my village." So this person went home, bought himself a bugle, returned to his village, and was full of excitement. Gathered everyone together and said, "Listen, no need to be afraid of fire anymore. Just watch me and see how quickly I will put out this fire." So saying this, he ran to the nearest hut and set fire to its straw roof. The fire, of course, began to spread very, very quickly. "Don't be alarmed," said this person. "Watch me." He began to blow on the bugle with all of his might, interrupting the sound only to catch his breath and to say, reassuringly, "Just wait. This will put out the fire in no time." But the fire, of course, did not seem to care much for the sound of the bugle and merely hopped from one roof to another until the entire village was in flames. The villagers began to scold and curse this person. "You fool," they cried. "Did you think that the mere sound of the bugle would put the fire out? It is only the call of an alarm to wake up the people if they are asleep, or to break them away from their business and work and send them to the well to draw water out and put out the fire." We are in the midst of the month of Elul, which is a precursor to our high holy days, in which we hit our own personal refresh button for the year ahead. It is not enough for us to simply hear the sound of the shofar as these holidays draw near and will soon ring out over this sanctuary in just a few weeks' time. The sound of the shofar will merely be our reminder to begin the work of asking forgiveness, granting pardon, and affirming our commitment to bettering ourselves in the year ahead. As much as the shofar, the sound of the shofar, is the herald of celebration and marks the passage of yet another year, let it also serve as our starting bell for the spiritual reflection that is such an important component of the high holidays. Wishing you all a Shabbat of peace and of rest. Shabbat Shalom. Again, if you're joining us in person, I'll ask you one more time to rise, and as you do, turn to page 282 for the concluding prayers of our service. Aleinu l'shabeach, the very top of page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ועושה ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287, in the middle of the page. ונאמר וחיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא נהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Page 293. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Page 295. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. On this Shabbat, the Sukkot Shalom community remembers especially Shirley Galat, Donald Dreyer, William R. Rader, Joseph Abraham, Ida Colin, Harry Galens, Jerry Jerome Goldman, Ruth Ross, Faye Herman Siegel, Regina Kimmel, Judith Strauss, Nancy Zizuk, Joseph Soriano, George Floats, Sheldon Hirschenow, Goldie Holeb, Florence Gore, Margaret Malamed, Fern Flegel, Louis Glickstein, Edith Goldberg, Cantor Jerome Frazis, Edward Samuels, Roy Leonard, Morris Rappaport, Vicki and Erica Isaacs, David Goodman, Jeanette Lubin Gordon, George Cantarsi. If you're joining us online and have names to leave in our chat of those you are remembering, please do so. Other names you in person wish to share. On page 294, we'll recite together the Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitzgadal v'yitzgadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam lamei almaya, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitpa'ar, Vitromam, Vitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shemei Dekudasha Barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechamata, Da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya, V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Osei shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May their memories be for a blessing. Zichronam livracha. Oseh shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, wishing you all another Shabbat of peace and rest, Shabbat Shalom. A reminder for all of us that High Holidays registration is indeed open, so please visit us at www.sukkatshalom.org, where you can sign up and register for services. We are very excited to welcome these High Holidays in with you all. You can, of course, always feel free to call our executive director, Andy Schultz, directly on his office line to receive assistance in registering for the holidays. But even before those, next week, next Shabbat, September 16th, we welcome to the Bima for the first time in her tenure as acting senior rabbi, Rabbi Carly Daniels, who will be back from maternity leave. So really do encourage you to join us for what will be a wonderful event welcoming her as our acting senior rabbi with Oneg Shabbat to follow services. Shabbat Shalom.